All right, so we're going to work on solving absolute value equations in this lesson. I just want to remind you that absolute value is the distance a number is away from 0. Because absolute value is distance, it's always non-negative. So you can be like 0 steps away from 0 or a positive number of steps, but you can't be a negative number of steps away from 0. And then it's denoted with these absolute value bars. And just a note to you, anytime you write these in this class or for math in general, I always try to make mine bold and like really tall so I know that they aren't ones for when I'm solving some things out. So I want you to think about prisoners, and now is story time. I know you're excited. You thought you were going to watch a math video, and now you get to listen to a story about prisoners nonetheless. Okay, so before you copy anything down, I just want you to listen to the story all the way through, and then you can rewind, or I'll zoom out and let you copy the rest of the problem down. Okay, so we're given this initial problem that you see here on your screen. And we're thinking about jail. So remember, these absolute value bars are like our jail bars. And obviously prisoners, we've got this on the inside. So the prisoners want to get out of jail, but first they have to wait for their visitors to leave. So anything that's on the outside of the absolute value bars, we need to take care of first. So for instance, this 2 is a visitor. It's not in jail, so we have to get rid of it first. So we're going to move the 2, divide that out, right, because that's being multiplied. And then now we just have the prisoners themselves, the 3x minus 1, in jail. So now that they're by themselves, it's time for them to get released from jail, and they have 2 options. When you get released, you have two options that you can do. You can either choose to be good, positive, or you can choose to be bad again, which will likely get you back in jail eventually. All right, so you have 2 options when you get out of jail, good and bad. Now, notice that when we make these 2 options, the jail bars are gone because the person is out of jail. So there are no absolute value bars left anymore. We left them behind before we were released from jail. I say this like we're the prisoners. All right, so if we continue on this path, now we can solve both of these options, right? So we're just going to solve these out just like we would with normal algebra, add 1 to both sides, divide by 3. And notice that gives us 2 different answers. All right, we get 2 different answers here. So some things that I want you to remember from this example is that when we solve absolute value, we have to obviously get rid of everything on the outside of the absolute value bars first. And then when we make, because we're in jail, when we make our 2 cases, the jail bars go away and we have 2 cases, one to be good and one to be bad. And because we're making 2 cases, that will always lead us to get 2 answers or 2 solutions. And also, please pretend that I did not spell that wrong the first time I wrote it, A-N-S-W-E-R-S. All right, so let's look at an example that we can work together. And for your notes before you move on, you may just want to make a little like star or something to think about jail and kind of this whole analogy. Okay, so here's the example we're going to do together. Remember, all visitors have to leave first. So we need to take care of this 3 and this -2 first. And think about if you were just solving a regular equation, which one would you get rid of first? For example, if this was like 3a minus 2 equals 19, you would get rid of that -2 before you deal with the 3. All right, so I'm going to add 2 to both sides of the equal sign. So that's going to give me 3, 4x minus 5 equals 21 when I add 2. And now I need to divide by 3 on both sides so that I can get rid of all visitors. 4x minus 5 absolute value equals 7. All right, so we're still in jail, but all our visitors are gone. So now we have our 2 options. We can either choose to be good, which is positive 7, or we can choose to be bad, which is negative 7. All right, the absolute value part stays the same, except we don't have the bars anymore. So this is just 4x minus 5. 4x minus 5. Now, pause the video real quick and see if you can solve for the 2 different values of x. Okay, I got x equals 3 and x equals -1/2. That's after I simplified. And then notice that they give us a number line. They really just want us to plot those 2 answers, which I know seems really, really silly, but you're going to see the application when we get to the next lesson. So we're going to want to just plot these 2 values. X equals 3, so that's just going to be a solid dot here because it equals that, but it's not an inequality, so I can't shade anywhere. And then x equals -1/2, which is going to be right here in between 0 and -1. All right, so those are my 2 solutions to this absolute value equation. All right, this is our last set of examples, and I told you if ever I add more than one example, it's usually because I'm trying to show you something specifically different, so make sure that you get both of these in your notes as well. All right, so if we look first here at example A, same thing that we're going to do before, we need to get rid of all of our visitors first. So I'm going to get rid of the 2 first, minus 2, that's going to give me negative 5, absolute value. X plus 1 equals 10. And then I need to get rid of that visitor, negative 5, so I'm going to divide him out. That's going to give me the absolute value of x plus 1 equals negative 2. Now, this should be a red flag to you because absolute value can never equal a negative value, right? It always has to be either 0 or positive. So since this is a negative value, there are no solutions to this problem. So we're just going to say no solution or no solutions. All right, so that's simple as that. Example B here, let's go ahead and try to get rid of any visitors. So we're going to add 3 to both sides. That's going to give me 3/5 2x minus 4 equals 0. And then I need to get rid of that 3/5. And we can either divide by 3/5 or multiply by 5 over 3. You know that's going to cancel over here, multiply by 5 over 3. And when I do that, 0 times 5 over 3 is still just 0. So 2x minus 4 equals 0. Now when you think about that, normally at this point we would make our two cases. We would either make our good case, which will be equal the positive value, or our bad case equal the negative value. Well, there is no like positive and negative 0. 0 is just 0, so there's really only one option here. I mean, you can write it twice if you want to, but we're going to get the same thing both times. So now we're really just solving this out, and when we do that, let's see, 2x is going to equal positive 4, so x is going to equal 2. And I'm going to get the same thing if I solved it over here. So then on my number line, I'm just going to plot the point, x equals 2. And there will only be one value or one solution for this absolute value. And that's the only time. Equaling 0 is the only time that you can get one solution and you don't get two solutions. All right, and that's it for this lesson. So we'll work on this together tomorrow.